With a grueling pandemic and gruesome political season, you'd be forgiven for giving up on the idea of miracles. But tonight, we will take you to a place that's known for them. The sanctuary of Our Lady of Lourdes in southern France is the site of 70 medical miracles recognized by the Catholic Church.
What do we truly understand about what occurs after we pass away, regardless of what various religions teach? The mysteries surrounding life and death have certainly baffled every soul that has ever roamed the earth. Surely, it is nature's way that when we pass on, our physical form breaks down into dust and becomes part of the natural world. But what if I told you that one individual defied these unavoidable laws of death and the forces of nature? For 140 years, the body of this young Catholic nun has resisted decay, prompting many to question the Catholic belief system. Is this phenomenon real, or is it merely a legend? Join us as we unravel the strange tale of Bernadette Soubirous and explore a controversial aspect of Catholicism. Bernadette Soubirous, fragile in health, was born on January 7, 1844, the oldest of 9 children from a family struggling with poverty. Her father worked as a miller, and her mother took on the job of a laundress. Times were hard in France, and the family lived in dire conditions. Bernadette's godmother, Bernard Castrot, a moderately wealthy widow who owned a tavern, did her best to support the Soubirous family. However, the situation continued to deteriorate. By the time of the events at the grotto, the Soubirous family had fallen into extreme financial and social hardship, living in a one-room basement that had once served as a jail, known as Le Cacotte. The dismal conditions, combined with Bernadette's vulnerability to illness, made life especially difficult. As a toddler, Bernadette caught cholera during the epidemic of 1854 and suffered from asthma and other ailments throughout her life. Likely because of her frail health, she stood at only 4 feet 7 inches by the age of 14. When recounting Bernadette's life, she is often depicted as a weak, uneducated girl living in miserable circumstances at Le Cacotte. While this is true to an extent, it was not always so. When Bernadette was born on January 7, 1844, at the Bouilly Mill, she was cherished as the firstborn of François Soubirous and Louise Castrot, who had married for love. The first 10 years of her life were filled with joy, forming a strong foundation that shaped her as a person. Even though her later years were marked by hardship, these formative years gave her a lively, spontaneous, and generous spirit, and she grew into a person of strong character, free from deceit. However, Bernadette never received a formal education, as she had to assist her aunt with various tasks. At 14, she was unable to read or write, and her peers often ostracized her. Her struggles extended to catechism lessons, as her memory could not retain the abstract phrases. Nevertheless, Bernadette had her first communion on June 3, 1858, the same year her extraordinary visions began. On a Thursday afternoon, February 11, 1858, 14-year-old Bernadette was sent with her sister, Toinette, and a friend to collect firewood near the grotto of Massabielle. While the other girls crossed the small stream in front of the grotto, Bernadette lingered, searching for a spot where she could cross without soaking her stockings. Sitting down to remove her shoes, she was startled by a sudden rush of wind. Strangely, although the wind was strong, nothing around her seemed to move, except for a wild rose bush nestled in a niche of the grotto. From the dark alcove behind the bush, a brilliant light appeared, revealing the figure of a woman. Bernadette described her as a young lady of extraordinary beauty, dressed in a white robe with a blue sash, yellow roses at her feet, and a large rosary on her right arm. The lady smiled at Bernadette and made the sign of the cross using her rosary of gold and ivory. Initially confused, Bernadette tried to verify what she saw. She blinked and looked around, even turning to her companions to see if they had noticed anything. To her surprise, they said they had not seen anything unusual. Bernadette then fell to her knees, took out her rosary, and began to pray. She later referred to the figure as Aquero, meaning that one. And though her companions saw nothing, Bernadette was certain the vision was real. This was only the first of 18 apparitions Bernadette experienced. She confided in Father Pomian 3 days later, explaining the events. On her second visit to the grotto, accompanied by her sister Marie and other girls, Bernadette again saw Aquero. She fell into a trance, but when one of the girls threw holy water at the niche, the vision vanished. The apparitions continued, with Aquero asking Bernadette to return to the grotto daily for 14 days, a period now known as La Quinzaine Sacrée, or the Holy Fortnight. As Bernadette's visits to the grotto increased, her family became increasingly worried. Her mother, in particular, was distressed and reportedly even struck her daughter to prevent her from going. Despite their attempts to stop her, Bernadette continued to visit the grotto. Word of her visions spread quickly, and soon everyone in the town had heard of them. The vision remained unidentified until the 17th appearance, but many townspeople, believing Bernadette was telling the truth, assumed she had seen the Virgin Mary. Despite the speculation, Bernadette never claimed the figure to be Mary, insisting on referring to her only as Aquero. Skeptics, including Commissioner Jacomet, questioned her claims, but Bernadette calmly maintained that her duty was to report what she had seen, not to convince others. Some accused her of mental illness and demanded she be placed in an asylum, but Bernadette remained steadfast in her faith and continued her visits to the grotto. On February 25th, she claimed to have experienced a transformative vision. The figure instructed her to drink water from a spring, wash in it, and eat the herbs growing nearby as acts of penance. The next day, the previously muddy area had become a clear spring. Today, this spring is known for its miraculous properties, attracting millions of visitors. Astonishingly, 69 cures have been verified by the Lourdes Medical Bureau, following rigorous scientific examinations. Although no one can fully explain the cause of these healings, Bernadette attributed the cures to faith and prayer. Before we go any further, please smash the like button and subscribe to this channel for more fascinating and mind-blowing content. I really appreciate you. Thanks. Church officials and the French authorities thoroughly questioned the young girl, and by 1862, they verified that she was truthful. On the 2nd of March, during the 13th vision, Bernadette informed her family that the woman had requested a chapel be constructed and a procession be organized. She approached the local clergy, asking them to build a chapel at the location of her visions. Today, the sanctuary of Our Lady of Lourdes stands as one of the most important pilgrimage destinations for Catholics worldwide. Numerous other chapels and churches have been constructed in its vicinity, including the Basilica of St. Pius X, which can hold 25,000 individuals, and was consecrated by the future Pope John XCI when he served as the papal nuncio to France. Lourdes, the once small town, is now a significant pilgrimage site akin to Santiago de Compostela in Spain, drawing millions of faithful annually. Reports of miracles at the shrine and within the waters of the spring spread far and wide. During her 16th vision, which lasted over an hour on March 25th, Bernadette again inquired about the woman's identity. After repeating her question multiple times, the lady responded in the local dialect, Gascon-Occitan, "I am the Immaculate Conception." Despite being thoroughly interrogated by both church officials and the French government, Bernadette consistently stuck to her account. Few visions have ever faced such intense scrutiny as these appearances of the Immaculate Virgin. By 1862, after extensive investigation, the Church ultimately acknowledged the authenticity of the visions. On April 7th, Bernadette experienced another vision in which her hand remained unscathed after being exposed to the flame of a candle for several minutes. Her fame was growing rapidly, and once word of the apparition spread, people began gathering in large crowds at the grotto when Bernadette was present, believing they, too, might see the lady. Though many doubted, others mocked her. Initially, even her family and clergy were skeptical that Bernadette had seen the Blessed Virgin Mary. The local government considered her a disruption. The mayor of Lourdes blocked off the grotto and fined anyone discussing the apparitions. He even attempted to have Bernadette labeled as mentally unstable, but faced too much resistance from both local citizens and clergy. On June 8, 1858, the mayor ordered the grotto to be sealed off, placing guards to prevent access. However, on July 16th, Bernadette returned and viewed the grotto from across the river, experiencing her 8th and final vision of the lady. Despite recounting these experiences to many, Bernadette believed that the growing attention could either help or harm her, and you're about to discover which it was. Bernadette's fame and life in the convent. What made Bernadette's story more credible was the consistency in her accounts. never altering or retracting any details. She defended the authenticity of her visions and faithfully relayed the messages from Mary. In his pastoral letter about the apparitions, Bishop Lawrence emphasized Bernadette's innocence, straightforwardness, and humility. He highlighted her unaffected recounting of events, her touching purity, and her firm answers to questions, given with unwavering confidence. Bernadette remained unshaken by both threats and bribes, proving her sincerity. She wanted to ensure she was not mistaken, yet the bishop found it hard to reconcile whether she was simply hallucinating. Bernadette's calm demeanor, common sense, and lack of any exaggerated behavior intrigued him. Moreover, the fact that the visions occurred independent of Bernadette's expectations, as there were occasions during the fortnight when the lady did not appear, made her account even more puzzling. Despite the public's curiosity and the media frenzy that surrounded her, Bernadette remained patient and humorously held firm, preserving the integrity of her testimony. She declined any financial gain and refused to bless rosaries offered to her. Life at her home, the Caquot, became unsustainable due to the growing attention. Bernadette was uncomfortable with the fame and needed protection. Father Pamely and the mayor agreed that she should be admitted to the hospice of the Sisters of Nevers as a sick poor person. On July 15, 1860, Bernadette, then 16, moved to the hospice, where she learned to read and write. Today, one can still see her writing exercises in the parish of Bartrace. She later frequently wrote letters to her family and even to the Pope. She visited her parents, who had been relocated to a better home. Additionally, Bernadette had strong views about the artistic depictions of Our Lady. It's no surprise, considering that she witnessed Mary firsthand. Imagine how you'd feel about portraits of your loved ones created by artists who never saw them. The only depiction Bernadette would pray before was the image of Our Lady of Cambrai. Tradition holds that St. Luke the Evangelist painted this representation, as he likely knew Jesus' mother personally. While at the hospice, Bernadette thought about joining the Sisters of Charity, but her health was too frail. On July 9, 1866, she took the religious habit as a postulant and joined the Sisters of Charity at their mother house in Nevers. Her novice mistress was Sister Marie-Therese Vauve, and the Mother Superior renamed her Marie Bernard in honor of her grandmother. Bernadette spent the rest of her life working as an infirmary assistant and later a sacristan. Her humility and willingness to sacrifice were admired by many. She frequently suffered from illness, becoming a regular patient in the infirmary. Despite her duties as an assistant, her own health continued to deteriorate, yet she accepted these sufferings as offerings for sinners, displaying a profound love for others. Sadly, her journey didn't last long. As Bernadette continued serving God, she was diagnosed with bone tuberculosis in her right knee and could no longer participate in convent life. She passed away in the infirmary of the convent of St. Gildard at the age of 35 on April 16, 1879, while praying the rosary. Even on her deathbed, Bernadette endured great pain, in keeping with the Virgin Mary's call for penance. Her final words were, "Blessed Mary, Mother of God, pray for me, a poor sinner." The Sisters of St. Gildard, with the bishop's backing, requested permission from civil authorities to inter Bernadette's body in a small chapel dedicated to St. Joseph within the convent grounds. Permission was granted on April 25, 1879, and on April 30th, the local prefect approved the chosen burial site. On May 30th, 1879, Bernadette's remains were moved to the crypt of the chapel, where a modest ceremony took place to commemorate the event. As part of her canonization process, Bernadette's body was exhumed 3 times, in 1909, 1919, and finally in 1925. Astonishingly, 30 years later, her body remained largely intact. On September 22nd, 2 doctors and a nun from the community exhumed her remains. While the crucifix and rosary she held had oxidized, her body remained incorrupt. Her skin retained its color, similar to that of a living person, and the church officially declared her body incorrupt, citing this as one of the miracles supporting her canonization. The group cleaned and redressed Bernadette's body and reburied it in a new double casket. Bernadette's body was again exhumed on April 3, 1919. According to the attending doctor, the body was practically mummified, covered with patches of mildew. and with a notable layer of what appeared to be calcium salts. The skin had decayed in some places, but remained intact across most of the body. After removing a few ribs to be sent to Rome as relics, it was decided that Bernadette's face, which had darkened, might disturb visitors. A light wax mask was ordered to cover her face, designed by Pierre Amans, a fashion mannequin designer from Paris. In 1928, Dr. Comte published a report in the second issue of the Bulletin de l'Association Médicale de Notre Dame de Lourdes, stating that what amazed him during the examination was the perfect preservation of the skeleton, muscle tissue still flexible and firm, the ligaments, and the skin. Most notably, her liver, after 46 years, had remained soft and almost normal in consistency, which he considered an unnatural phenomenon. In 1925, Bernadette's body was exhumed again. This time, relics were sent to Rome, and a mold of her face was made to craft the wax mask now present on her body. Her remains were placed in a golden and glass reliquary within the chapel of Saint Bernadette at the Mother House in Nevers. The church canonized her on December 8, 1933, not for being chosen for the apparitions, but for her response to the grace she received. She was canonized by Pope Pius XI, who validated the veneration of Mary as Our Lady of Lourdes. While her feast day is optional on the Roman calendar, Lourdes is a major pilgrimage center for those seeking healing. Bernadette's body, still incorrupt, now rests in a golden glass reliquary at the Mother House of the Sisters of Nevers, where she appears to be peacefully sleeping. Her lifelike appearance, clothed in a nun's habit, is one of the most recognized examples of incorrupt saints, those whose bodies remain preserved from decay. Saint Bernadette is frequently depicted praying with a rosary or in conversation with the Blessed Virgin. She is the patron saint of those suffering from illness, those ridiculed for their piety, shepherds, in the town of Lourdes, France. Just as the Father did not allow Jesus' body to undergo corruption while in the tomb, God has granted that some of his faithful remain uncorrupted after death. While some may seek scientific explanations for this phenomenon, none has yet been found. Bernadette lived long before modern embalming practices, which only delay, not prevent, bodily decay. In Catholicism, an incorrupt saint is one whose body experiences little to no decomposition, which many believe to be due to divine intervention. Unlike mummification, both natural and artificial, the incorruptibility of saints does not fit within scientific explanations and remains a greater mystery to this day. It is important to note that incorruption refers to the lack of decomposition, not necessarily that the saint's body appears perfectly preserved. The incorrupt bodies of saints serve as a consoling sign of Christ's victory over death and a testament to the truth of the resurrection of the body. They symbolize the divine promise that, through faith and holiness, eternal life transcends the physical decay associated with mortality. Incorruptibility is seen by many believers as a reflection of the soul's purity and closeness to God, offering a powerful witness to the world of God's grace at work in the lives of his saints. These preserved bodies act as physical reminders of the miraculous, drawing pilgrims and the faithful into deeper contemplation of their own spiritual journeys. Furthermore, incorrupt saints like Bernadette demonstrate the intimate bond between the body and the spirit, affirming the Catholic belief in the sanctity of both. Their preserved bodies serve as an enduring legacy, inspiring devotion, strengthening faith, and providing hope in the promise of our own resurrection. The presence of incorrupt saints also serves as a visible confirmation of the Catholic faith's truth. In a world that often demands physical proof of the spiritual, these miraculous occurrences act as a bridge between the supernatural and the natural, inviting believers to witness the mysterious workings of God in tangible ways. They are not just historical relics but living symbols of the faith, hope, and love that characterize the lives of saints, encouraging the faithful to aspire to greater holiness in their own lives. The incorrupt bodies of saints serve as a consoling sign of Christ's victory over death and a testament to the truth of the resurrection of the body. They are a reminder that the saints are still with us in the mystical body of Christ, a visible confirmation of the Catholic faith.